Yeah, thank you so much for joining us on this special program where we are looking at the New Dawn government in the past 2 years. I am your host, Amos Zulu, and today we are at the Ministry of Justice, and we are privileged to host the Minister of Justice, Honorable Mulambo Haimbe, State Council. Honorable Minister, welcome to this interview.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. 2-year milestone. I think we're all excited about it.
Sure. Now, to set the ball rolling, Honorable Minister, kindly give us the mandate of your ministry.
The Ministry of Justice, in a nutshell, has the mandate of providing legal services to government. Our clients are fellow ministries. We give them advice on various matters. And of course, another key aspect of our mandate is to ensure that the promulgation of laws is done in an efficient and proper fashion. That is, we are the liaison really between our clients, the ministries, as they make these laws, and Parliament, and ultimately the people of Zambia. But more importantly, currently, under the 8th National Development Plan, we chair what is called the 4th pillar, the governance pillar of the 8th National Development Plan, really to steer the country in a fashion where the rule of law and good governance is at the center of everything that we do. So that really is what the Ministry of Justice is about.
Well, we are looking at the achievements of the government in the past 2 years. Maybe you can just go through us the steps that your ministry has taken to ensure that the rule of law is upheld.
Yes, as a service ministry, and as per the mandate that I mentioned, foremost at ensuring that we deliver for the people of Zambia, we have to make sure that the legal environment in which the country operates is optimal, that it serves the aspirations of this government, and of course the aspirations of this government are the aspirations of the people of Zambia. So we have been able to execute that mandate to strengthen oversight institutions by ensuring that any advice that is given from this ministry through the Attorney General's chambers, for example, is one that is aimed at observing the independence of oversight institutions. What do I mean by oversight institutions? The law enforcement agencies, the Zambia Police, and even in any setup where there is need to interpret the laws of Zambia and to give an opinion to the Republic, as the case may be, we have always ensured that that is done in a way that the rule of law is paramount and no other consideration. But in doing so also on a more specific basis, the Ministry of Justice has got certain institutions under it. Amongst them, for example, is the Legal Aid Board. We all know that the Legal Aid Board plays a crucial function in the delivery of justice because every individual is entitled to legal representation, for example. And the Legal Aid Board helps in executing that by providing free legal services to those that are otherwise not able to provide for themselves. And this bridges the gap between what many would say in layman's terms, the rich and the poor, so that each person can, as much as possible, have access to justice, must be able to exercise or enjoy their constitutional right to legal representation. And the Legal Aid Board, currently under the New Dawn government, in the last couple of years, we have been devolving it to districts. Several new offices have been opened in some districts that were never serviced. We can talk about, for example, there is now a presence of the Legal Aid Board through the legal services units and other interventions in places like Petauke, it's far-flung places like Nakondi and so on and so forth, where we never had representation before. And in addition to that, the Ministry of Justice itself is devolving. We've opened 5 new offices in the provinces where we did not have presence before, so as to ensure that both sides of the justice journey for individuals are well represented. That really is what we can talk about for the last couple of years.
Minister, let us now talk about some of the legal reforms that your ministry has undertaken in the past 2 years in order to improve the judicial system in the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, we need to understand that the judiciary is an independent arm of government. Therefore, ours is to provide a supportive role rather than effect reform on behalf of the judiciary. And so, you will note, for example, in the introduction of the Economic and Financial Crimes Court, the judiciary, of course, ran with that process, but we provided a facilitative role on behalf of the executive arm of government, and other measures that have been taken generally to improve the environment in which our citizens operate, because the law is always active, it's alive, it must be responsive to what the needs of the community, what the needs of the country, what the needs of business, what the needs of our everyday lives are. We have played a role as Ministry of Justice to transform the environment in many, many ways. One of the key things that has been a challenge for our country in the recent past, for example, is the procurement of debt in a fashion that is not in the interests of the people of Zambia. What have we as Ministry of Justice done in order to assist in that process? We helped in the promulgation of the Public Debt Management Act in a way that we as New Dawn government, our hands have been tied deliberately by that piece of legislation so that our resources as a people are protected from careless borrowing. The Public Debt Management Act makes sure that we control the manner in which we borrow through the oversight institution, which is Parliament. And Parliament, of course, is a representation of the people of Zambia. There are even other pieces of legislation which are closer to home that were passed after many, many years of not being passed. I'm thinking in this particular regard about the Children's Code Act, for example, aimed at protecting our young people, because the future of this country is the very young, even we can argue the unborn. And the Children's Code Act goes to protect those particular our future, our diamonds, if I may call them that, because of the fact that, for example, issues of child marriage are dealt with in that act. Issues of the rights of the child and the manner in which those can be protected are dealt with in that act. So for us, we're very proud of that particular milestone, which was only achieved in the last 2 years. I can go on and on because there are several examples I can give, but I thought those points would stand out as something which the New Dawn government can be I think commended for. And even in the process of the much talked about fight against corruption, many believe that it is perhaps some rhetoric on the part of the New Dawn government, a political promise. But the reality of the matter is that the New Dawn administration, through the various bodies and entities that are in charge of handling the fight against corruption, have made sure that it is not merely an academic exercise. And so many will say, for example, that why don't we have convictions? Why aren't we seeing an end to these matters? Financial crimes are difficult by their nature to prosecute. And this is why we're saying, let's make a specialized set of courts so that the accused persons themselves are guaranteed protection of the law, and so that the process can be as quickened as possible, if I can use that expression. These are some of the interventions that we have put in place. Yes, we have no convictions, not many convictions. We have 1 or 2 under the Economic and Financial Crimes Court, but it's a process, and the process ends in either conviction or an acquittal. And that is not what we are looking for as Ministry of Justice. We put in a framework where the law is superior. And ultimately, at the end of the day, those that are accused may walk away or may be convicted, but they will know that they faced a fair trial. That is what the people of Zambia expect of us, and that is what, of course, we helped to deliver.
Are there any measures to quicken the process? Obviously, there are some critics that are saying that the process is a bit slow.
Yes. As we speak, we have new sets of rules that are being prepared by the judiciary. Ours, again, is to provide support services to ensure that those rules are in keeping generally with the constitutional mandate and with the acts of parliament to which from which they derive. So we are helping to ensure that those rules are made into law as soon as possible. And those will give specific imperatives as to how criminal processes under the Economic and Financial Crimes Courts should be undertaken. Again, it's a layer of protection, not for the prosecutors per se, but for everybody involved in the criminal justice process, including those who are accused of having obtained these ill-gotten wealth, as the case may be.
Now, are there any special cases where women and children are treated but differently, like in the judicial process, because we see that there might be some discrimination in the way cases are handled.
The law, and it would be very, very dangerous to have a specific set of laws, excuse me, that are aimed at discriminating. And so the law will look at everybody as equal. But of course, there'll be special protections for special groups of people. For example, I already talked about the Children's Code Act, which is aimed at protecting specifically the rights of children. Also in the space of the protection of the rights of women, we all know that GBV is a crucial aspect of our everyday lives. We need to ensure that we protect those that would otherwise be vulnerable and weak. And so the GBV, anti-GBV provisions of the law have from time to time continued to be enhanced. But also, the creation of the family court, for example, the division and the High Court, the family court division in the High Court is aimed at protecting more specifically the more vulnerable of our society, including women and children. We've also strengthened the various institutions so as to bring them up to speed with what is expected in a modern society in respect of protection of women and children, including the excuse me, enhanced role played by the Social Welfare Department, the enhanced role played by the Ministry of Community Development in the exercise of its various mandates, because right now, as you know, the packages that are received by vulnerable people in our societies, from the Ministry of Community Development are enhanced from what we've seen in the past. And of course, we continue to ensure that the police and other institutions that are mandated to execute law enforcement keep a specific mind to ensuring that the most vulnerable in our society are protected.
Now, Honorable Minister, how would you rate yourselves in terms of transparency and accountability? I am informed that your ministry, through the Office of the Solicitor General, is the one that gives guidance to government in terms of contracts, and these are the issues. How is the transparency and accountability in that manner?
Yes, so the Attorney General's Chambers, headed by the Attorney General, Constitutional Office, the mandate of the Attorney General is clearly spelled out in the Constitution itself. Not even myself, as head of this ministry, where the Attorney General's Chambers sits, can guide or address the Attorney General to give a specific opinion or direction to government. I think that underscores how important these functions are. Of course, the Attorney General is deputized by the Solicitor General. It's part of the Attorney General's Chambers. We have put in the forefront of all our activities, as a government generally, the need for transparency, as you have put it. And that is given in the fact that the opinions that are made available from these chambers, the Attorney General's chambers, are essentially aimed at protecting the interest of government and, of course, the people. That is a key aspect. But speaking generally as the New Dawn administration, the fact that even persons that are appointees of this government that were put in office in the last 2 years are subject to the same rules and regulations. They are not treated as sacred cows. Would tell you a big story, would tell the people of Zambia a big story about the transparency that we as a New Dawn government want to put in place. And more importantly, we have political will at the highest level. We cannot run away from the fact that His Excellency the President, Mr. Hichilema, has made it absolutely clear that no individual serving in the civil service would do so for personal gain. The service by the New Dawn government is purely that of ensuring that it is the people that are put first. It is servant leadership, and that is a critical aspect of accountability and transparency. And this has been made absolutely clear by His Excellency the President at every opportunity, including in the actions that have been taken from that office in the recent past.
So, but it's a justice for all.
Justice for all. That is what we aimed to achieve, and that is we are walking the talk, I believe, and the proof is available for all to see. In even the manner in which the judiciary, for example, can exercise absolute independence. There are many cases that abound where decisions have been made that otherwise people would have expected would be made in favor of government, but go the other way. It shows you that your institutions are exercising their freedom and independence, and the very fact that we now have an environment in this country where every citizen is free to enjoy and their civil liberties and express themselves freely, even against the government of the day, it tells you that we are in a completely different dispensation. We are growing our democracy. We are able to take bold steps like removal of the death penalty. That is all aimed at freeing the minds of the people of Zambia. Like removal of defamation of the president provisions. That tells you that we are moving in a particular direction to ensure that we as Zambians are able to say we are truly citizens in this country who enjoy the ultimate freedoms that are available to them. Of course, bearing in mind that our freedoms, yours and mine, are always subject to the law, to the constitution, and to the written law that exists.
Honorable Minister, any final words that you may have?
Well, by way of final words, I would like to take the opportunity to say to the people of Zambia, thank you, first of all, for allowing this government to have the 2 years that we have served and the mandate that remains, and to be able to say that this is just the beginning. We are aimed at ensuring that our promise for judicial reform, our promise for legal reform, our promise for electoral reform is fulfilled, and we as the Ministry of Justice are at the core of that, and we are alive to the role and the job that we have to do in order to safeguard all the interests of the people of Zambia. Of course, I know that on your part you still have one or two burning questions for me, but I can assure you, as the minister in charge of this governance pillar, that we'll do our best and continue doing our best throughout this mandate.
Honorable Minister, before I let you go, when can we expect the passage of the Access to Information Bill, and how do you anticipate that it will impact on the transparency and accountability in the country?
Thanks so much. I knew you had another question there. The Access to Information Bill was first the first attempts at having an access to information law started as long ago as 1998. And I think that should put a perspective to any discussion around the access to information law. We have shown the political will to have it passed. Cabinet gave approval in principle not too long ago, I think about 2 to 3 weeks ago. That is a critical step in ensuring that this law comes to pass. Right now, as we speak, the Line Ministry, the Ministry of Information and Media, continues to engage with stakeholders as we undertake the internal processes which lead to the bill being passed. So it will be sooner rather than later from the steps that have been taken so far.
On your part, how important is this law if passed?
Yes, on the part of government generally, I think we have made it absolutely clear that the access to information law is critical in our governance setup. Why is it so? Because first of all, that particular law, aside from allowing the fourth estate, the media, our partners in governance, to have access to various important pieces of legislation, important pieces of information, important documentation, let's just say information generally. It also puts a check on ourselves, the civil servants, because it's one of the key tools in the fight against corruption. That is a fact that is known worldwide. I can't hide behind any particular officialdom in the face of a piece of legislation of that importance. Of course, it is not just important to the media alone, but to the public in general and as a whole. And therefore, it is crucial to us as the New Dawn government that we get this particular piece of legislation in place.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much for allowing us to find time and come and have this interview with you here.
The pleasure is all mine, and once again, thank you to the people of Zambia.
That was Minister of Justice, Honorable Mulambo Haimbe, State Council, who was talking to us on the achievements by his ministry in the past 2 years. And on behalf of the entire production team, my name is Amos Zulu. Bye-bye.